The first story. After Grandma's funeral, her brother said, "I changed the will." My grandmother, Emily, was born in 1925 in a small, rural village in England. Her parents, John and Sarah, had been forced into a loveless marriage after conceiving Emily out of wedlock. When Emily was born, John and Sarah blamed her for ruining their lives and subjected her to relentless abuse. In contrast, her younger brother James, born 3 years later, was doted upon and treated like a prince. When Emily turned 18, her parents forced her to marry a local drunkard. Emily's husband beat her and squandered what little money she earned on alcohol. When she went to her parents for help, they coldly turned her away, saying, "You chose this marriage." After several years, Emily finally managed to divorce her husband. But she was left penniless and had no choice but to return to her parents' home. There, she faced even more abuse. John and Sarah declared they would cut Emily out of their will and leave everything to James. James married and, with John and Sarah's help, built a luxurious mansion. Meanwhile, Emily remarried and gave birth to my mother, but they continued to struggle financially. James and his wife gloated about their children's health and mocked Emily's misfortune. When John passed away, James inherited a vast sum and grew even more arrogant. A few years later, on her deathbed, Sarah confessed to Emily that she had been forced to change her will and handed her a small sum of cash. However, James and his wife took over Sarah's funeral arrangements, completely excluding Emily. When I was 10, Grandma Emily's health deteriorated. My mother desperately cared for her, but Uncle James pressured Grandma to change her will. Secretly, my father took Grandma to a lawyer and had the will changed, leaving James and his wife a mere 10 pence. When Grandma passed away, my mother was consumed by grief. At the funeral, James and his wife behaved atrociously and contested the will. However, when my father revealed the truth about the will, James and his wife were left with nothing, not even the 10 pence. 9 years later, James died. The Christmas card we received included a plea for financial assistance. But my mother burned the card and chose not to attend James's funeral. She chose the bonds of family she cherished. Grandma Emily's life was a tragic one, a victim of her time. But as my mother demonstrated, we can choose our own family. Grandma's story taught us that rather than being controlled by money, it's most important to cherish the bonds with those we hold dear. By learning about my grandmother's tumultuous life, I was able to reflect more deeply on my own. Valuing family bonds over material possessions, that is the greatest lesson Grandma left us. Grandma Emily's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Despite the cruelty she endured, she never lost her capacity for love, which she passed on to my mother and, in turn, to me. As I reflect on her life, I am struck by the realization that our true wealth lies not in our bank accounts, but in the love and support of our family. Money may provide temporary comfort, but it is the bonds we forge with others that sustain us through life's darkest moments. Grandma Emily's legacy lives on through my mother's unwavering commitment to her loved ones and the values she instilled in me. I am grateful for the opportunity to share her story, and I hope that it serves as a reminder to cherish the family we have, to forgive those who have wronged us, and to never let the pursuit of wealth overshadow what truly matters in life. In the end, Grandma Emily's story is one of hope that even in the face of unimaginable hardship, we have the power to choose our own path, to create our own family, and to leave a legacy of love that will endure long after we are gone. It is a lesson I will carry with me always, and one I will strive to pass on to my own children someday. To my dear Grandma Emily, though you are no longer with us, your spirit lives on. Thank you for the love you gave, the lessons you taught, and the strength you instilled in us. You will forever be missed, but never forgotten. Rest in peace. The next story. The unconventional inheritance, a grandfather's unique approach to recognizing true family. In today's video, I want to share with you a remarkable story about a dear friend's grandfather and the extraordinary way he chose to distribute his inheritance. This heartwarming tale showcases the importance of genuine care and love within a family, and how those qualities can be rewarded in the most unexpected ways. The dutiful grandson and his friend. My friend, whom we'll call F, approached me with a request for help. His grandfather, who adamantly refused to enter a nursing home, needed assistance with his daily routine. Having just completed my civil service in a retirement home, I had the necessary experience to guide F in caring for his grandfather. Together, we visited him every morning and evening for over half a year, until the grandfather's unfortunate passing from a stroke. The surprising invitation. 2 days after his grandfather's death, F asked me to accompany him to the reading of the last will and testament. To my astonishment, the lawyer had officially invited me, as the grandfather had left me something as a token of appreciation for my service. I was touched by the gesture, but little did I know the surprises that awaited us. The entitled family members. At the lawyer's office, we were greeted by F's father, ED, and uncle, EU, both of whom were known for their entitled attitudes. They questioned my presence and accused me of being a gold digger. F stood up for me, calling out their lack of respect for their late father. As we waited for the other grandchildren to arrive, ED and EU's conversation revolved solely around their extravagant spending plans using the anticipated inheritance money, with no mention of their father's passing or any sense of loss. The unconventional will. The lawyer began reading the grandfather's letter, which detailed a unique point system he had devised to ensure a fair distribution of his assets based on the care and attention each family member had shown him in the last 3 years of his life. Points were awarded for letters, phone calls, visits, and assistance provided. The final tally revealed an astounding disparity. ED, 8 points. EU, 10 points. EUGID 1, 150 points. EUGID 2, 133 points. Brother, 288 points. F, 7,341 points. Me, 5,883 points. The grandfather's assets, once liquidated, would be divided according to the points earned by each individual. The legal battle and secret clause. ED and EU immediately contested the will, claiming that F and I had manipulated the situation. They filed lawsuits, but ultimately lost. Unbeknownst to us, a secret clause in the will stipulated that anyone who challenged the will would forfeit their share of the inheritance. The unexpected windfall and life lesson. 3 years later, when the legal battles concluded, F and I received our shares of the inheritance. The amount was far more than I felt comfortable accepting, and I considered giving some to the other grandchildren. However, F convinced me to accept it, emphasizing that my care for his grandfather, when he needed it most, made me more family than those who had neglected him. This extraordinary story teaches us that true family is not defined by blood alone, but by the love, care, and respect we show one another. The grandfather's unconventional approach to his inheritance highlighted the importance of valuing genuine connections over material gains. May this tale inspire us all to cherish and nurture the relationships that matter most in our lives. The next story. The septic tank checkmate, how my grandfather outsmarted his greedy brother. Hey, everyone, gather around because I've got a wild family story to share with y'all today. This one's about my grandfather and how he cleverly got back at his brother, who had exploited their dying mother for her estate. So, grab a cold one, sit tight, and let's dive into this epic tale of family drama and sweet, sweet revenge. The scheming brother. Picture this, Ireland, about 40 years ago. My great-grandparents were on their last legs, with great-grandma heavily relying on morphine to ease her pain. She was trying to write her will, but the drugs made it hard for her to think straight. Now, her estate was no joke. We're talking multi-millionaire level stuff here. My grandfather, being the stand-up guy he was, always made an effort to keep in touch with his brother, Lee. But one Saturday night, when Granddad went to their usual pub hangout, Lee was nowhere to be found. Turns out, Lee had secretly moved to Ireland to butter up their drugged-up mother, hoping to score her entire estate. Sneaky, right? The unfair will. Fast forward a year, and great-grandma passes away. At the funeral, everything seems fine until they get to the will reading. Turns out, great-grandma was high as a kite when she wrote the will, leaving everything to Lee and nothing for anyone else. The family was fuming, but they couldn't contest the will because it had been signed and witnessed by her attorney. The septic tank loophole. Now, here's where things get interesting. Lee had inherited a huge plot of land in rural Ireland, but there was a catch. The house on the property was right on the edge of the land, and the septic tank was actually on the neighbor's property. Without the septic tank, the house couldn't be sold because it wasn't up to code. But guess what? My clever grandfather knew about this little loophole and bought the surrounding land, including the plot with the septic tank. Checkmate, Lee. The stalemate. Lee, being none the wiser, fixed up the house and got it inspected, only to find out he couldn't sell it without the septic tank being on his land. He tried to buy the plot from the neighbors, but surprise, surprise, they had already sold it to my grandfather, who wasn't budging. Lee had sunk over £300,000 into the house, hoping to resell it for a profit. But now, he was stuck. He couldn't sell the house, and he couldn't install a new septic tank because the land couldn't support it. My grandfather had him in a checkmate position, offering to buy the land for a measly €5,000. The stubborn standoff. To this day, Lee refuses to accept defeat and sell the land to my grandfather. His stubbornness has left him scraping by on his plot, while my grandfather sits back, knowing he got his revenge for Lee's underhanded tactics with their mother's will. So, there you have it, folks. A tale of family betrayal, clever revenge, and the most epic septic tank standoff in history. My grandfather may not have wanted the land itself, but he sure as hell wanted to give Lee a taste of his own medicine. It just goes to show, don't mess with family, especially when there's a septic tank involved. The next story. The twisted tale of my grandparents' inheritance, family drama unleashed. Hey, everyone. Get ready for a wild ride because today, I'm going to share with you the crazy story of my grandparents' inheritance, and how it led to some serious family drama. Buckle up, grab some popcorn, and let's dive into this messy tale of money, betrayal, and long-lost siblings. The inheritance and the plan. So, here's the deal. When I was just a little girl, my grandparents passed away and left me a savings account with over $300K in it. I was supposed to access it when I turned 21. And they left me a letter asking me to share the money fairly with any other Smith-Jones children, aka my full siblings. But plot twist. I never had any full siblings, just 2 half-brothers from my dad's side. Being the sweet sister I am, I decided to split the money equally among the 3 of us. I figured we could each get $100K, and when my youngest brother Mac turned 21, we could split any remaining cash. Sounds like a solid plan, right? The house and the loan. When I finally turned 21, my dad had the brilliant idea of using my $100K to buy a house. I found my dream place, but it was a bit over budget at $130K. Since I couldn't get a mortgage, dear old dad suggested I borrow $30K from the inheritance account. I figured I could pay it back before my brothers turned 21, so I went for it. The confrontation and the contract. Fast forward to when my brother Joe turned 21. As I was handing over his $100K, he noticed the account was a bit short. I explained the situation and promised to put the money back before Mac's 21st birthday. But Joe and Mac weren't having it. They accused me of stealing from them and demanded I pay back the full amount plus interest within 6 months. They even wrote up a contract. The nerve, right? The legal threat and the shocking discovery. I was about to sign the contract when I noticed the 6-month deadline. Nope, not happening. We agreed on 2 years, and I was sticking to it. That's when the boys decided to play hardball and threatened to sue me for the money, plus extra for damages and emotional distress. Give me a break. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. Out of nowhere, I get a message from a guy named Chris Smith, claiming to be my long-lost half-brother. He had proof and everything. Turns out, my grandparents had set up another account for my dad's illegitimate children, and Chris was one of them. Oh, and apparently, I have an 18-year-old half-sister too. Talk about a family reunion. The aftermath and the family fallout. After consulting with a solicitor, I found out that my half-brothers had no claim to either inheritance fund. I told them to back off and enjoy the $50K I'd already given them because that's all they were getting. The fallout was epic. Dad tried to get Chris to share his fund with the boys, but Chris shut that down real quick. The drama didn't end there, though. Turns out, my stepmom had no idea about my dad's other kids, and she was not happy. She kicked him out of the house, and now he's begging me to reconsider. But honestly, I'm done with all of them except for Chris and my newfound sister. So, there you have it, folks. The twisted tale of my grandparents' inheritance and how it tore my family apart. It just goes to show that money can bring out the worst in people. But it can also help you find the family you never knew you had. As for me, I'm focusing on building a relationship with my new siblings and leaving the rest of the drama behind. Remember, life's too short to get caught up in family feuds, especially when there's inheritance money involved. Stay true to yourself and don't let anyone guilt you into doing something you don't want to do. And who knows? You might just find a long-lost sibling or two along the way.